From Ayrton Senna to Fernando Alonso, F1 has no shortage of villains. But there's one guy who everyone hated, but is now one of the most loved people in the sport, Michael Schumacher. Look, here's the thing, everyone enjoys a good villain. Everyone needs a common enemy that they can all rally against, and just like that, F1 fans aren't any different either. For now, the villain seems to be Max Verstappen, and why wouldn't he be? He's clearly beating everyone on the grid by a massive margin, so of course people are going to look for flaws in his tactics.
On the inside, this time is just hanging back a little bit. And is the patience gonna pay off here? Because Verstappen has got DRS down the main straight. Charles Leclerc can't cover him off. Verstappen takes.
But just cause you're a villain, that doesn't mean you can't be the best. Cause one of the most hated guys in F1 was also one of the best drivers to ever exist, Michael Schumacher. This guy was involved in 2 crashes in the title-deciding races. And he also happens to be the only driver in the history of the sport to have been disqualified from a driver's championship. And again, he's also only one of 2 people to have ever won 7 world titles. While Lewis Hamilton may have equaled his record, he's having a tough time breaking it. So the legend of Schumacher will go on forever. Michael was one of the most divisive people in the sport, because he was either loved or he was hated. Kind of like Max Verstappen right now. But even if you absolutely loved him, you have to admit that the German did do some questionable things throughout his racing career. For example, the 1994 Australian Grand Prix. In 1994, Schumacher went to the Australian Grand Prix, the final race of the season, leading the championship against Damon Hill by just a single point. Michael and his teammate qualified 2nd and 3rd, behind Nigel Mansell, but the 2 were easily able to overtake him and started running a 1-2 formation, and eventually Damon Hill was a whole second behind the 2. Now, the pressure was on, and you can clearly tell it got to Schumacher's head, because he made a massive mistake on lap 36, hitting the wall at the East Terrace corner. Taking advantage of Schumacher's mess up, Hill made the move. He took the inside line, and just as he was about to overtake Michael turned in, hitting the Williams driver. This sent Schumacher's Benetton flying into the air. The damage suffered by his car was so immense, he was forced to retire from the race immediately. Hill, on the other hand, tried his best to continue, cause damage or not, he only needed 2 points to win the world championship. But alas, his Williams had to be parked because of all the damage it suffered to the front suspension. Consequently, Schumacher won the title by a single point. And many of Schumacher's enemies of the time pointed out that he was only able to win because he cheated. They refused to see this accident as a racing incident. These people were adamant that the German hit the Briton on purpose. But that's not even the worst thing Schumacher's done. He was just getting started. I'm talking about the 1997 European Grand Prix. 3 years after the incident, and Schumacher had a deja vu moment, because this time around as well, he found himself fighting a Williams driver for the world title. This time it was Jacques Villeneuve, and just like it happened in 1994, the German went into the final race of the season leading by a single point. Michael qualified P2, and while his qualifying time was exactly the same as Villeneuve's qualifying time, he set his time 14 minutes after the Canadian driver had set his time, so just because of that, he started P1. And then Schumacher made the better start. For the first 40 laps, Schumacher was leading the race, but after that, Michael started coming under pressure from Villeneuve, because just like in 1994, the stakes were extremely high this time around as well, and then on lap 46, Jacques made the move. He drove down the inside of Schumacher, and of course, what did Schumacher do at that time? He turned in on him, but this time around, Michael wasn't so lucky. He had to retire his car immediately. On the other hand, Jacques was slower than he was before the incident, but he managed to win P3 in the race. And just like that, Jacques won the world championship 3 points ahead of Schumacher. But it doesn't end there, because then things got worse for Michael. So here's what happened. The FIA's disciplinary committee actually investigated the move, and they deemed it deliberate. Because of of this, Michael was completely disqualified from the championship, so technically, Villeneuve actually won the world title with a margin of 39 points. Anyway, it didn't just end there, because everyone in Germany was so heartbroken over Michael's loss that the German press completely ate him up. They even called him a kamikaze without honor. So Michael probably learned a lot from this incident, didn't he? Nope. We have the 1998 British Grand Prix next. Of course, he did something problematic the very next year. Anyway, this happened at Silverstone when Schumacher was leading the race, but he was penalized with a stop-go penalty for passing Alexander Wurz under safety car conditions. The timing of the penalty was quite harsh as well, because Schumacher only had 2 laps to go, and the rules stated that he had to enter the pit lane within 3 laps of it being issued. But rather than coming in for the penalty immediately, the Ferrari driver stayed out on the track. At the very last minute, he went into the pits. Now, here's the thing. The pit lane extends across the finish line. So in a way, he actually crossed the finish line and finally stopped in his pit box. And guess what? It actually worked out in his favor, because the stewards slapped Schumacher with a penalty for doing what he did, but the penalty was later rescinded. And the stewards lost their licenses for making the wrong decision. Now, it doesn't matter if you think whatever Schumacher did was justified or not, but you can't deny that it was smart as heck. Anyway, 4 years went by and Schumacher didn't do anything too problematic, but then the 2002 Austrian Grand Prix happened. Winning the 2000 and 2001 world titles, Schumacher went into the 2002 season as someone who had the potential to equal Juan Manuel's record of 5 championships. He won 4 of the first 5 races, and he came into the 6th race, the Austrian GP, with an advantage of 21 points over Juan Pablo Montoya. Schumacher qualified 3rd. His teammate Rubens qualified 1st, and his brother Ralph qualified 2nd. Rubens had a wonderful start, and then Michael overtook his brother, but Rubens had an amazing lead over the German. However, after the final round of pit stops, Rubens was ordered by the Ferrari team principal to let Michael take the lead. Rubens was told that it was important for the championship. He was so pissed when he was told to do that he argued with the folks on the pit wall for about 8 laps. But then he was told that his contract was on the line. Because of this, Rubens slowed down for Schumacher on the final lap, finishing 0.182 seconds behind. But this didn't really work out for Michael, because it made the fans super angry. In fact, they booed the whole thing so much that Michael made Rubens stand on the top step of the podium. But that didn't cheer them up. And neither did it cheer up the FIA, because they slapped Ferrari and the 2 drivers with a $1 million fine, and banned team orders that interfere with the race results from 2003 onwards. But that rule was removed in 2010. And folks, these were some of the reasons everyone hated Michael Schumacher. See you guys soon.